Hi there, Steve Kaufman here, and today I want to talk about learning 3 languages in the same day because I've changed my strategy, and I'm going to explain why, and I'm going to provide some background. Some people will say, gee, Steve, you used to say you should focus entirely on one language, and I did used to say that, but a number of things have changed. I have come to realize that, the more you focus on one thing, to try to nail one thing, you stay with one thing, there is a point when the efficiency, the learning efficiency declines. I find that, listening to Arabic or Persian stories, that by about the second or third story that I'm reading or listening to, I am less focused, less curious, less hungry. I notice fewer things. That's one thing. Now, I had mentioned before that I was going to study 3 languages over the next, say, year or so. 3 months on Arabic, 3 months on Persian, and 3 months on Turkish. And that was my intention. Then I saw a video where a polyglot that I greatly admire, Luca Lampariello, said he was doing 3 languages a day. Can't remember which ones. I think Danish was in there. And he was spending 30 minutes on each. So I thought, well, if Luca's doing that, maybe it's something that I should try. And so I've started doing it. And the advantage is, first of all, that you are introducing more variety. So before you get stale in one language, you move on to another. And so it's new and it's fresh and you're more curious. And I do find that since I started doing this 2 days ago, I do notice things more, especially when listening, but also even when reading. And now I am working on the mini story, so it's largely a matter of refreshing where I was, because I was away for a month traveling and I dabbled a bit in Serbo-Croatian and of course the last language I did was Turkish, and so now my Arabic is a little bit rusty. So the first thing, of course, is that I find that I notice things better. The second thing is that there's less time to forget things, so it is a bit annoying if I meet an Arabic speaker, as I did in Spain, and I have to present excuses that, well, yeah, I was studying Arabic, but for the last 6 months I was doing Persian and Turkish, and now I can't remember my Arabic. And so this way I can maintain them all every day, because I do, say, 2 or 3. As I said, I'm focusing right now on reviewing my mini stories. I want to do 2, 3, 4 mini stories in each language every day. And I do the same ones in each language, which has the advantage that I'm aware of the context of the story, because I just finished doing it in another language, and that sort of helps. So I'm going to do that, and we'll see how it goes. Now, people say, well, you're contradicting yourself. Yes, I'm contradicting myself, but the number one rule in language learning is to enjoy it. And so experimenting with different ways of learning is a way of enjoying it. You've got to have fun. Now, obviously, this learning strategy is going to depend on your situation. When I was learning Chinese, I worked for the Canadian government. I had a job to learn Chinese, so I was totally focused on learning Mandarin Chinese. And yet, even there, I did have variety, because I had 3 hours a day of one-on-one classroom instruction with a lot of drills. I had to spend a fair amount of time every day on characters and on writing. And then I did a lot of listening, and I also scoured the bookstores of Hong Kong to find new material to listen to and read. So there was, within my Mandarin learning activity, I tried to introduce as much variety as possible. So that's one situation. But now I'm learning for fun. So those of us who are learning for fun, we can experiment with whatever system we want. The main objective is to enjoy it. If you enjoy the activity, you will improve. I'm quite convinced of that. And the other, the advantage to me is that if I can do 3 a day, 3 languages a day, say half an hour on each, particularly varying the listening activity, and if that enables me to progress. Now, bear in mind, probably the first month I'll be focused on the mini stories, kind of to get back to where I was and make sure that that's, firmer in my mind. Then as I go to explore new material, I won't have the advantage of being able to do the same story in different languages. So we'll see how that all works. But if it is successful, it means that at the end of 9 months, rather than being 6 months removed from my Arabic, in fact, I will have all the 3 languages with me, learning them all together. And I think that we should experiment with language learning, because unfortunately, language learning and language instruction for too long has been the preserve of the language teachers. So the assumption is that you learn in a classroom. Well, you may learn in a classroom, but it's also just as likely that what you do outside the classroom is more important than what you do in the classroom. The reason why people in Sweden and Holland or Croatia speak English well is because they have so many movies and television programs in English or in the original language for other languages. So it's not because necessarily language instruction in Croatia or Sweden is superior to language instruction, say, in Spain. I also once saw a study put out by the American Center for Linguistics or something, which traced, the influence of English instructional hours on how well immigrants did in learning English. And while they sort of crowed about the benefits, if you looked at the results, it showed that in some cases increased instructional hours meant a decline in English proficiency, which really only demonstrated that there was no direct relationship. There was all kinds of difficulty measuring how well people are doing. And in fact, those immigrants who had friends in the United States, this was an American study, or who worked where they used English, obviously were going to improve more than people who only went to class. And so that really the idea of focusing all language learning on the classroom, and therefore language learning methodology or the best way to proceed has to be based on what works in a classroom, I think that's basically wrong. I think serious language learners should experiment with different ways of learning. And, this whole idea of learning more than one language, of being a polyglot, is something that I wasn't even aware of when I was studying Chinese. I just had this one task. But I didn't even know the meaning of the word polyglot, basically, because linguist is the word still in English that's used to describe someone who speaks many languages. But as I learned more and more languages, I realized the benefit of varying it, not only varying the activities, but also varying the language. And I find that it makes me more focused, better, more attentive to the language. And of course, the brain likes novelty. So I'm going to continue experimenting with this, and we'll tell you, we'll let you know how it goes. A small note here, back, of course, from my trip to Croatia and Spain. But on the 15th, I'm going to Japan. I'm going to attend the Polyglot Conference in Fukuoka. And I'm going to be in Japan from the 16th to the 23rd, 7 days. If anybody wants to have a meetup, I'll be in Fukuoka and Osaka, possibly Tokyo. Please let me know if there's any desire for a meetup. I will make a presentation at the Fukuoka Polyglot Conference. And also, I will leave a link here to a presentation that I'm going to make to a group of Japanese language learners. This one will be in Japanese, and you'll see the link. And if anyone is in Fukuoka, you're also welcome to join it. そうですね、15日、日本行きますので、主に福岡のそのポリロットの会議に参加するんですけれども、福岡で、そのコンフェレンス以外にもですね、この英語を勉強してるその学生たち、に、その言葉の勉強についての話もするつもりです。もし誰か大阪か東京か福岡でミートアップをやりたいならば、ぜひ私の方へ連絡してください。Alright, that was just, again, inviting people to let me know if they want to have a meetup. So, that's it, and I will continue doing my 3 languages a day because I'm having fun with it. Alright then, bye for now.